Infocom, India's top business technology leadership conference, bringing together one of the largest congregations of ICT professionals, corporate leaders, academics, visionaries, and policymakers in the country. Infocom, the annual Information and Communication Technology Exposition, was initiated in 2002. And over the last 20 editions of the event, has emerged to be one of the largest platforms in the country where the IT experts and gurus of the corporate world interact with business users, policymakers, and academicians with an objective to empower businesses with IT for greater advantage. The theme for Infocom 2022 is the Age of Change Makers. We begin the day with this pre-inaugural plenary session. And ladies and gentlemen, the opening session for Infocom 2022 conference is Decisive Decade, India 2030. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we're indeed very, very privileged and honored to have amongst us our keynote speaker, our opening keynote speaker, Padma Shri, Mr. Kiran Karnik. Before I hand over the microphone to him and I invite him onto the dais, a few words about Mr. Kiran Karnik. Mr. Kiran Karnik describes himself as a public unintellectual, a non-academic with a strong interest in public policy and strategy. Columnist and author, his latest book is Decisive Decade, India 2030, Gazelle or Hippo. He is widely recognized for his work in the IT sector as President NASSCOM from 2001 to 2008. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I welcome Mr. Kiran Karnik onto the stage to deliver the opening keynote. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you and good morning, all of you. Pleasure to be here and indeed very happy to be back in Infocom and to see Infocom back in action, physically and with people actually being able to meet, talk, greet and shake hands with each other. So really a great moment. It's been a long journey for Infocom and a rather successful journey, and I'm really privileged to have been associated with it for a long time. This morning I'm going to share a few thoughts with you on why I see a decisive decade for our country and indeed maybe for the world. As I do this, I'm very conscious of the fact that there are many people who feel that every decade is decisive. It is true. Which year isn't, which time isn't, which hour isn't for each one of us. And yet, to me, there's something special about this decade. Let me spend just a few minutes on why I think this is special for India and why I call it the decisive decade. If I look back, and I'll be very brief on this, in about two decades from 91, but especially in the decade from around 2001 to 2012, we saw a period of glorious growth for India. Economic growth was very robust. India was rising on the world stage in all senses. In the country, we took over 200 million people out of poverty. Not only was growth good, therefore, it was very inclusive in terms of getting people moving up beyond poverty line. If you look at any of the figures, we did extremely well in this one period, almost a golden period. We had hoped it would continue, but there was a slowdown after 2012 a little bit, 2014, 15 it picked up again, and then again it slowed a bit. And the last few years, as we know, both because of global reasons and of course most of all COVID in the last 2 years, the overall global economy has slowed down and we were hurt badly. It did a lot of good for our health, it protected a lot of people, but the drastic lockdowns had their own impact. Ours were brief and so we bounced back very soon. But even today, given the global scenario, we are yet to get back to where we were. So from 2020, we've seen first the COVID pandemic and then the hope that we will bounce back. And the beginning signs of that, what you would like to call green shoots, are beginning to show up. It's got held up for 2 years, but I'm very hopeful that we will see them coming back. I take a very optimistic look at the future. And I think this decade will lay the foundation for what will be continued growth for the next few decades, where the second part of this century can, and I think will, truly be India's decade. But today I want to focus particularly on the technology aspect of it. And in this too, this decade is crucial. We've seen a lot of new developments over the last few years. We're going to see many more over the next few years. And I'll touch on them maybe briefly later. But these are now beginning to find their way into the population, penetrating into the country and penetrating deeply. One example of that is the kind of thing we have seen in financial technology, both starting many years ago, but then accelerating through demonetization, and now because of COVID. We've seen the same on things like e-commerce, which again started earlier, but through the 2 years when we were for many, many months stuck at home, we found that that was a savior. And these trends have gone deep into the country. The penetration has been high. And therefore technology's influence, not just on the upper fringe, which was the case earlier, has now moved way deep into the countryside, and also not just geographically, but even socio-economically, gone down the socio-economic ladder, where today, as we all know, it's very common to see everybody using simple apps for payment, and popular ones like Paytm, or using WhatsApp.